That's what I'm trying to do. I'm here with Phil Eisner. Yes. I'm so pumped right now. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to RynoRyder's podcast, The Word. This is a show that fights to expose and tear down the alluring curtain of Hollywood and show what life is really like to be a filmmaker living in Los Angeles in today's day. Today's episode is anybody that's ever consumed or listened to any of my content. It's in look at my Instagram bio. I say writer first, filmmaker second. Writing is if I could literally just sit and write every single day of my life, that would be my dream. Unfortunately, I decided to add on a bunch of other things on top of it, so I can't always write every single day. But today's show topic is writing. And my guest today, couldn't have literally picked a better one unless, I don't know, Aaron Sorkin was sitting across from me.
He's better.
He's better.
Definitely better.
So my guest today, everyone, is a screenwriter. His name is Phil Eisner. He is has been a mentor of mine, and now is a friend and colleague, and hopefully a future collaborator. How's
Absolutely.
that?
I like that.
Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
If you guys are watching on video, I have this right here. So I guess I'll give the intro of how we became to know each other. First of all, I was 17. When was it, 97?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 17 when I first saw the movie Event Horizon. Loved it.
Thank you.
It's and has since become somewhat of a cult classic. Very much so. Very much so. I did a couple years studying screenwriting at UCLA, and Phil happened to be one of the instructors there. The first quarter or whatever, I had a different instructor, for whatever class. Like the first class or whatever I took was somebody who had a resume, but like just I didn't jam with. And I remember I was looking at the next quarter and the instructors, and I was like, who are these people? And I saw your name. Said, who's Phil Eisner? And I was like, looked up and I was like, oh fuck, he wrote Event Horizon? I'm taking this fucking class. And then I remember the first class. Went in there and I was like, do you remember I came up and talked to you after, because I was doing evidence at the time, and I said, I absolutely want to take your class. I think I'm going to get tons of value of it, but I'm going to miss like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, and my attitude was cool.
Yeah.
Because you're actually learning more making the film than you'll learn in the class.
Exactly. And then I took a couple more classes from you. You were like my go-to, like...
Yeah, it was like either you were there or you were in production for like a year. It was like... And which was really useful to other students, because a lot of Ryan was bringing in questions and comments that had to do with things that a lot of times, sometimes screenwriters don't even think about. Mm-hmm. Whereas you're always very focused not just on. I mean, you always get this note, right, that people are like, well, we don't want you to think about the budget. We just want you to write the perfect idea, and they don't realize that a lot of times the limitations of budget or the limitations of how you're going to do a thing makes you very creative.
I love restrictions.
Right.
I love restrictions in screenwriting. Right. I'm working on... we're getting off topic. Anyway.
Right, but that's...
By the way, the show is going to run a little long. I'm just Phil and I have already sat down for like half an hour, and we're like, I got to fucking start recording.
No, but seriously, you've got two people with attention deficit and who free associate. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
All right, so Phil, let's
drink some more Red Bull and just keep up.
I don't know. Tell me your origin story. How did you start? Tell the people where you came from. I know where you came from, but tell us where you came from, a little bit of background, and how you kind of how you got to get billed as the screenwriter for this movie by the year 1997.
Well, I want to throw one thing out because a lot of people will talk about they want to follow a path, right? And I always think of, before I go into like my specific bio, I just want to throw out, it's like, if you could sit there and it's like, what was the one thing that I can't...
there is no,
Right, there's no one thing, but seriously, what a lot of people overlook, and it's something that you hear people say who are like bitter at when other people get stuff done, they go, oh, they were lucky. And the truth is, yes, incredibly lucky. But what you always have to stress is you have to do everything right to get incredibly lucky. Your screenplay has to be good. I mean, I don't mean like good.
Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Luck meets preparation. You're right, and a lot of that means that because at any given time, whether it was now, and it's harder now than it ever has been, but in the film industry, it's kind of like publishing. Every year, like my first job was in publishing, they said, well, this is the worst year in publishing. A friend of mine's a writer, and he says, yeah, it's the worst year in publishing. It's whatever year it is, it's always the worst year. It's always getting harder, and yet movies still get made. Stuff still gets happened. New artists get found. It's like, well, how come they did it and not me? And it's like, you may have done everything right. You may have written a great script, and someone else got lucky that year. That doesn't mean that your script isn't great.
Yeah.
But you also have to have written a great script. It has to meet these standards. It can't be too long. It has to be something that can be filmed. It has to have lines that an actor wants to say, as opposed to, people are like, well, they're paid to say that line. It's like, no actor that's helping you finance the picture is doing anything because they're getting paid. They happen to love acting, and they're saying things they want to say, and that's why they chose to do it.
It's actually, I mean, someone who doesn't know the industry or understand it may not get that, but that actually is like 100% the truth, right? Because it's like, you need the actor to get the money, to get the movie,
Absolutely.
And those everybody thinks like, or like it's easy, or you know what I mean? Like, no, it's because they fucking love the craft.
Right.
They love it. They were built for it. They
right.
could not live without it.
Right.
That's why they're at the top of the game. That's why they're put on top of the posters. That's
right.
Yeah.
And that also means that when it comes down, it's like, oh, you're going to pay him a bunch of money to do the role. It's like, yeah, you're going to pay him a bunch of money to do the role. That their job is not to say your lines. Their job is to sell the film. So they're going to say lines that they want to say. They're going to play a character that they want to play. They're going to read a script and go, holy fuck, I have to do this. Yeah. I mean, it's not like The Rock is hurting for a list of movies that he can do next, for which he will be paid whatever The Rock gets paid. I'm sorry, is he Dwayne Johnson now?
You know what?
He's The Rock to me.
I grew up with him as The Rock. No, but he actually is. I actually thought about that because I watched the new Skyscraper trailer came out for his next movie, and I'm like, I love what he does. Like, it's fucking popcorn. You know what I mean? It's popcorn entertainment, and it's good, and and the quality are.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Was it San Andreas, which was the Quake movie?
Loved it, dude.
I know, and it was one of those things where people go like, "Is it a smart movie?" And I'm like, actually, for what it is, it's like a smart take. It's a smart take on a dumb movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's a ball, and he's great in it.
But I noticed that
that was a movie I thought I would hate. I thought I'd be like. I know we argued about Armageddon in the past, because Armageddon, I'm like...
Pump your brakes. Armageddon is the greatest movie of all time.
No.
Do not.
No.
Can we go into a...
No.
I'm going to time this. We're already 9 minutes in. We're going to have a 4.5 minute discussion about why you think Armageddon is a bad movie. I get it. I understand what you're saying, and you also know I'm a very fucking big fan of Michael Bay.
Oh, I'm not a Michael Bay hater. It's specific to Armageddon.
Okay, explain.
Specific to
I'm
Armageddon.
curious. Tell me.
Okay, it's just this. I think you need a basic set of reality for stakes, and Armageddon, at some point, plays so fast and loose with physics that I can't buy the stakes. Sometimes there's gravity.
It's because
sometimes there's not gravity.
It's because you're a science fiction writer.
But it's not just because I'm a science fiction writer. In the same way that if you go, what has better action in it? Who's the better action director? And you may disagree, but I would say, like, of these three, you know, one of them doesn't belong, all right, in this pantheon. And it would be like Michael Bay, Jim Cameron, and George Miller.
Okay.
And I'd say Michael Bay doesn't belong in the same category. I
agree.
Because you think he's better. That's where you're wrong.
No. I agree with you that Michael Bay doesn't belong in that pantheon. But that has nothing to do with action. That has everything to do with storytelling.
But here's the thing. To me, action has greater impact when there's this real awareness of cause and effect. And when you watch Fury Road, or when you watch, you know, anything Cameron does, Cameron creates this Loctite chain of cause and effect. And sometimes they're in big shots, and sometimes they're in small shots.
So Cameron, I saw in an interview, said like how he approaches action, or, you know, sequence, or whatever. It's like, okay, you got two guys fighting.
Right.
Okay. They're on a train. Okay. The train's moving. Okay. It's snowing. Okay. It's night. Okay.
Towards a cliff.
Yeah.
And the cliff is on Mars.
Exactly.
I've seen that one. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I again, but that's storytelling.
Oh, yes, but I don't think you can separate
Michael
it out.
Bay has his own Red built his own fucking camera just for him because he does it. He captures. Okay, how's this?
Okay.
He captures action better than anyone else. He doesn't tell action like better than not like he's not even in the top 10, but he captures action better than anyone.
I guess, but here's an example. Like I just want to pop back.
I'm so fucking pumped.
I want to pop back to my example here. Like, why it's specific to Armageddon? Because if you talk about, for example, the car chase in Bad Boys 2, I'm like, absolutely
out of fucking control,
right?
There's a boat.
That car chase is like, my God, it's brilliant. But that car chase, even though it's movie fantasy, it's still, the physics are there. And when you get to the asteroid, and it's like, I got the humor.
I got it. But okay.
But
hey, by the way, a fucking bullet firing into a scuba tank doesn't explode and make a giant shark explode either. However, Spielberg said, if that's what the audience, like, if at that moment, like, the audience says, no, I don't buy into it, then I haven't done my job well.
No.
Michael Bay fucking delivered super emotional, super visceral experience. So at the time they got to the asteroid, who fucking cares if the gravity isn't right?
I did. It was sloppy. It was sloppy. And this is the thing. Paying attention to gravity wouldn't have made it worse. And by sloppy, I mean, okay.
Like, you think Armageddon is a bad movie?
Let me explain. Climax. We're talking about the climax. The climax
makes me
of the
cry
film.
every fucking time.
Okay, you're crying so much, Ryan, that you're not paying attention. Because Bruce Willis has the detonator. Then we cut somewhere else. And suddenly, he doesn't have the detonator. The entire film is like he's got to push that button. But you cut back, he doesn't have the detonator.
So it's a continuity issue? Like, have you ever...
you've
made a movie, like... Continuity is hard.
The climax. At the climax
so
of
they
the
fucking
film.
So the script supervisor fucked up on day 700 of shooting.
No, you're talking about the edit now, and I understand why mistakes.
I get it.
But and then at the climax, suddenly it's like he's got to get. Oh, now he's got to get back to the detonator, and they cut away, and they cut back, and the detonator's in his hand, and I'm like, I want to see him crawl to the detonator. What? And you know it was filmed. You know it was filmed. You know that
he does drop the detonator down the hole.
But then how he... No, but I'm talking about how he gets it back in his hand. right?
Oh, they just cut
before he says we win, Gracie.
You're right. You know what's an interesting thing about Michael Bay, and I will completely get it. Like it goes in the thing. Like he has a very interesting way of how he. I mean, he doesn't edit, but he has like a team of editors,
right.
that, you know, and he's the director, so he dictates,
right.
you know, whatever. He has an interesting way of like really just kind of like skipping over like entire scenes of like, okay, so we introduce this scene and people are doing things, and then all of a sudden smash cut and we're in a car and leaving the scene. And it's like, so I'll give you that. But however, Armageddon's a fucking badass movie.
All right, now,
Michael Bay, if you ever see this, I'm your biggest fucking fan in the entire world.
You've done better. You know it.
Of course he has.
You know you've done better.
But have you?
But
what do you think of his?
But let me tell you, this is what. I'm just going to finish the thought. This is what I think went wrong. This is not a Michael Bay hating moment. That was an enormous film, and they were working on that film until the prints shipped wet.
Mm.
And to me,
that makes sense.
The fact that there's like a mistake like that in the continuity of the editing, the problem isn't that it happened. The problem it was in the climax. That climactic moment was one where it's like, you know, because this is the thing of what we missed was milking the beat that set up we win, Gracie. That's what got me.
But that's not the moment that makes me cry. The moment that makes me cry is when fucking Ben Affleck is he's, by the way, giving the greatest performance he's ever given in a motion picture, period.
Oh, fuck. Gone Girl. I freaking love Gone Girl.
Sure. But do you know why Fincher cast him? Because he's Ben Affleck. Because, sorry, Ben. But, like, Ben's not, like, right, this, like, deep emotional, like, actor. I mean, he's brilliant. I love him. He's great. That performance in Armageddon is hands down his greatest. So fucking touchy. Like, he lost it. He went to a place that, like, he's not Ben Affleck anymore.
Right.
Gone Girl, he's still Ben Affleck the entire movie. Where are we at? What's going on?
But
which
Gone Girl. How messed up is it that I actually after she murders? After we spoiler.
Oh, spoiler alerts, shit. Everyone! Yeah, don't watch. Yeah, if you haven't seen fucking Armageddon, you shouldn't be listening.
No, Gone Girl. I was like, I actually found her a lot sexier when after that.
Do you know my favorite moment of that movie was when the fucking ending was so good.
Oh,
when she comes back and he fucking slams her against the wall.
That's the moment where I was like, I shouldn't be excited by this moment, but I am.
Also a moment where I'm curious if you'll agree with me. Also a moment where I was reinforced by my belief that women are far superior to men. The fact that she was able, like, do you know their brains work differently? Agree?
Yeah, but I also think they have to be. Yeah,
it's science. It's biology. It's in order to like further our race and species. Like women need to
Women have to survive, but also women also have to deal with the fact that you are
bigger physically.
Yeah, they have to survive.
To be more cunning. Yeah,
right,
and I find that fascinating. I love women. Well, you read my script. I mean, I
no, you write strong women.
Yeah.
That's
they're the greatest. Okay,
we'll
back on track. Quick background, just so people.
I don't remember when I started writing. I actually, when my mom.
Where are you from?
Oh, from Fort Worth,
Texas. Then.
Does that need to be explained? Yes.
Well, I don't know. Might be somebody in fucking Zimbabwe that's listening to this.
Well, I always thought people go like, "Oh,
is he this soldier? Does he live in?"
No, all right. So everyone goes like, "Oh, is that near Dallas?" And all I can say is, so Fort Worth is where the West begins. Dallas is where the East peters out. Yeah, Fort Worth,
that's
Texas.
Funny. Okay, so Texas. You don't remember when you're writing college?
No. Well, the first thing it's funny.
What was high school like for you?
Oh, I was a theater nerd. Oh, no, I was terrible at sports.
If you're listening to this and not watching it, Phil's you're a big Texan.
Oh man,
dude.
But understand. So my growth spurt hit, and I was like 6'3" and maybe 140, 130 pounds. I mean. you know, my friends, you know, they call me like Sir Celery.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Or Beaker.
You're like Kevin in the office.
Yeah, it was like Beaker, right?
Sorry, Kev.
So I didn't get shoulders until I was maybe a sophomore or junior in college.
Yeah.
So it took me a while.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't into sports. But so anyway, when my mom died, I was going to, you know, get all of your parents' stuff, and I found apparently I had no memory of writing this. I had typed out a one-page scene in screenplay format. I have no idea how. But it must have been like at 5, and it involved machine guns. I think because of Mighty Mouse. I love Mighty Mouse is my favorite thing. So it was already crazy violent. And
so where'd you move after Texas? Like after high school, you went to college?
Yeah, I went to Stanford.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, well, you know the difference between Stanford and Harvard is that if I'd gone to Harvard, we would have begun this podcast with a discussion of
Harvard.
Of Harvard, and it's like, yeah, well, as a Harvard graduate, I just wanted to mention that when I was at Cambridge, Harvard, not Boston. Stanford's a very good school, and
went to Stanford, and then did you move straight down to Los Angeles after that?
No, it's like because I got like most people who are interested in I took some film courses at Stanford, and that's when I sort of figured out exactly what I wanted to do, but there is no path. And this is back in the day.
This is like 1950.
Ouch. Ouch. This is 87, 88. But it wasn't like you could just take your phone.
1987, by the way, is the greatest year of cinema ever. Do you want to know why?
No, why? But no, there's a lot of great stuff.
Because that's the year Predator came out. And it's the greatest movie
and
ever.
I saw it in the theater, and it was so good.
I saw it on VHS.
And it was still
and
so
it was
good.
so amazing.
It is. And when I say B movie, I'm not saying it in a negative way. No. It's the greatest B movie ever made.
I hate, we were talking about earlier, I hate the fucking 3-act structure. I hate Blake Snyder. I hate Save the Cat.
Oh.
But it is the greatest, most perfect 3-act structure screenplay. I mean, I can identify.
Write down. We'll have to talk about structure while we're here, because I got
it right here.
Okay.
Right here.
Right.
How do you structure outline? There we go. It's the next thing.
Yeah.
Look,
okay.
we're on a good. We're semi on pace.
Semi on pace is good. But like a lot of people who want to get into the business, I was sort of bounced around. You know, I bartended. I had worked in a copy shop making copies. I was the copy guy. You know, it's like
making copies.
Yeah, it's like just like a list of crappy jobs. Then I got not so much a good job, but it was entry-level job at a publishing company, which was very cool. And the whole time it's like first screenplay I wrote. Got a good response from an agent. We didn't sell it, but it's like got me attention. And the second one we sold.
I mean, I've not only have I haven't seen Meet and Carl, sorry, but I don't know where it is right now. Do you have a copy? I could download it for free probably. But like, you sent me a screenplay, spec screenplay.
Was it
The Kingdom?
Oh, Other Kingdom.
Fuck, it's so... I read it in...
Still gonna make it. Still gonna make
100%. It. I read it in the afternoon. Remember, I called you right after, and I was like, thank you for, like, sharing this, and B, like, fuck, it's so good. We got off topic again.
No, we can do that. If you want to talk about how great my writing is, we can do that.
Yeah, I would love to. Actually, tell me, I want to know how this came... So, got in, blah, 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 Bursa jobs, somebody got it. How did this come about? Because that was a moment, right?
Right, and this Event Horizon came out in a couple of ways. So this the second screenplay I wrote, I sold to Larry Gordon, and we entered into a multi-picture deal, and so I'm pitching them ideas. And around this time, my father was killed in a skiing accident, and.
I mean, it was a long time ago. But
I appreciate it. No, but I mean, he was a great skier, so it's not like be careful what you wish for because you get it.
Right.
But it was, it was like it was doing something he loved, and I'd rather he it's like, are you going to stop doing the thing you love because it's going to kill you? It's like,
nope.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
So at any rate, so I'd always had this idea that was bouncing around, and I just wanted to do, like, to me it was like, do The Shining in space, do the, so The Shining and The Haunting,
That
the
actually
original
makes
Haunting.
perfect sense. It makes so much sense.
Right.
That's exactly, like, literally, it's like, I mean, that's super cliche. It's,
Right.
Thelma and Louise meets Armageddon, or whatever, but, like, those actually kind of make sense if you...
Right. And the reason that Hollywood always does stuff like that, it's not because we think those ideas will work well, but ultimately a film is obviously always going to be more complex than what will fit on a 3x5 card. But when one executive is talking to another executive who's got a billion decisions they've got to make at any given day, the whole idea is, obviously we want the movie to be good, but what's really important is we have to know that we can sell it. And that's what's the poster? What's the concept that fits on a poster?
What are your feelings on that? As somebody who's been in the industry a hell of a lot longer than I have, had much more accolades, in my opinion. What are you like? Because we are artists, right? We are creators,
right?
However, our creations and our thoughts and our ideas and our imaginations are then packaged and sold.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I fucking hate it, and I want to change it.
I don't know if there's a. I mean, part of this goes with, as technology changes. It's one of the things that we have right now is the cost of making movies, on a smaller scale, is just dropping through the floor. You need a camera, you got a phone. It's like, you want to have good sound design, it's like, you can do a good sound mix, on your computer. You're talking about an investment
of $150, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the entire Adobe suite. Like,
right.
Yeah.
It's like, so this is within our wherewithal. What's much harder now is, how do you market? How do you get people to want to see your idea? So sales, even if you're the artist, getting the audience to come is the hardest thing, because it also used to be, you're going to buy advertising, you got 4 networks and
why
billboards and buses.
why not bust your ass on the creative,
Mm-hmm.
shoot it for, you know what I mean, do it for free, and fucking put it out there for free to the world. If it's good enough, people are going to watch.
Oh yeah.
So then what do you want? A bigger house?
What do I want?
No, not you. I'm just saying, no, I'm like, theoretically like that.
Universal healthcare. But isn't this thing of, like, ultimately it's what, as the French say, is the il faut manger, right? One must eat. So it's figuring out how do you, we're always trying to figure out how to, it's like, monetize. And when we talk about the industry a little bit with technology, the biggest problems I think that the industry has is, and this happens with a lot of IP, we try to build up barriers so that people will pay you. Like, we need to get the money. You paywall here, paywall there. It's like, you're gonna buy, I'm gonna go buy buy something off of iTunes instead of downloading it for free, and you look at the movie, and the movie's $20.
Right.
And then you look at the DVD, and it's like the DVD's $15.
Right.
And then I could get it for free, whereas opposed to, I think what was the actual brilliance of iTunes for music? That didn't stop the hemorrhaging, but it was 99 cents for a song. Because if you can't pay the artist 99 cents for the song,
which they
fuck
get 2.
you.
Yeah.
Right. but it's fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? If you are so cheap that you won't give, well, it's Metallica, they've got all the money. It's like, God damn it, so what? It's like, what has a band whose songs that you love brought wonder to your life, and you won't give them 99 cents for a song?
Yeah.
You are just a cheap bastard, and you're probably never going to have sex.
We are so on fire right now. This is great.
No, but it's
all right,
true.
Let's keep going.
Right. So I think I think that movies will end up being priced similarly.
Yeah. I'm in the whole point, the whole purpose of everything I do is that I believe that our industry has not innovated since its inception. Meaning,
Right.
like, oh, screen's gotten bigger, camera's gotten more fancy,
Right.
more pixels, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual innovation. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, stagecoach to car.
Right.
Both providing the exact same thing.
Right.
One's just doing it a lot better because they innovated.
Right.
And that one's dead and died out. So, anyway, we won't get into a bashing Hollywood.
No. I mean, I still, I still do this. I'm still, slaving away in the pits, trying,
I'm
trying to
I'm still trying to get their attention.
Yeah. I love, it's like I love the business, but I should say I love movies and I love making movies, and the business makes it possible.
Yeah.
It's like, and one of the things, and it's hard I think, for creative types to get our heads around, but it's something that it makes you a little less angry once you sort of like fix this in, is that a movie, from the perspective of Hollywood, a movie is a byproduct of deals. The movie ultimately is not the purpose of the money. Like a studio's job as a publicly traded company, their job is to make money for their shareholders. And in that sense, it's no different than any public traded company. It has nothing to do with the product.
100%.
Make money for the shareholders.
AT&T. Doesn't matter.
Right. It's this. Exactly, which is why on some level, in some roles, the executives from these companies are ultimately interchangeable. It's like, how are you able to manage the assets and the personnel? That's all that's important. And then,
but don't you think those executives, those like that,
some executives in some departments?
Well, some, whatever. But like my point is, or not my. It's not
you wouldn't want a president of production coming in from a widget factory,
right? But don't
it's
you
like
think that
like
person? His number one goal is the money. I mean, I get it, but it's super frustrating.
Yeah. But I think the advantage of that mindset is, instead of being like, oh my God, worrying about what this person's getting or that person's getting or whatever, it lets the artist realize that it's like, okay, all the stuff that's getting me frustrated, it has nothing to do with me, it has nothing to do with the movie. So what I need to do is be aware of, this is the reality. This is what the executive needs to say yes. This is what these people need to say yes. How can I give them the cover they need? It's not that they don't want to make movies.
Right.
But it's what's the important thing.
So segue that into your experience making this, because it was what, 100 million?
No, it was 60.
60.
But
in 97, that's like
a lot more.
Today. Yeah.
It's a lot.
So like, tell me your experience. So you wrote it as spec script.
No, it wasn't a spec. It was like I pitched him as Shining in Space.
Right, but I'm saying,
right. Oh, right. And Larry's like, usually want more information than like 3 words. And I had a little bit. It's like, here's the physics behind how they're warping space and comes back. And
which can I give you a compliment real quick?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times that fucking?
What? Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many times that's been ripped off in movies?
Yeah.
And every time I see, even fucking Interstellar did it.
Which I
loved. And I was like, come on, Chris.
No, I was like, yes.
That was like, I mean, because you can't not.
Oh,
that was the first time it was ever fucking done or explained in a movie.
The idea.
So every time after that, it's like you took that from Event Horizon.
Seriously though, but like the idea of what an honor for the Nolans to rip you off.
Yeah.
I mean,
I get. Yeah,
that's awesome. I was ecstatic.
So okay, so you pitched them an idea.
Right.
They bought it.
Right.
You went to work.
Yeah, and
on the screenplay.
And
How different? What was the page count? By the way.
The page count was
like
it was
the
long.
first. The
first draft was like 125.
Okay.
It was long.
Tell me, and this is actually to the 6 people that are listening right now. This will be valuable, I think. Tell me how much from your brain, your inception of the screenplay, and it doesn't have to be the first draft, but like what you got of the story of the screenplay, how much of it translated to the finished film?
I would say at least 70%, 70-75%.
Okay, I was guessing around 80. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul Paul was
Who
extremely...
I'm a huge fan, by the way.
No, first of all, and he's like the most awesome human being.
Yeah.
Paul was...
Paul W.S. Anderson, for those who don't know.
Yeah. Paul was really respectful, and we worked really closely
And he's
together.
also a writer.
Yeah, and so it's like in all the drafts after that, it was very collaborative, and
That's cool.
and as a writer, working with directors who also write is a real pleasure, even if they're not. And I think actually Paul's a very good writer, but any director needs to have written at least one screenplay, even if it's terrible, so that they understand the process of writing, because it makes working with them so much easier.
Yeah.
Because if you work a lot of times with directors that don't have that experience, a lot of times it'll be this, they can be nonverbal, and then you're trying to get something out of
And
them.
this was a big movie for him as well, because he'd only done Mortal Kombat.
He did Mortal Kombat, and he did Shopping. Shopping got
Shopping
a
was
Mortal
his
Kombat.
first. Yeah,
Right.
Shopping got a Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat got him
this.
this.
Right.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. And then he went to create the Resident Evil.
He did Resident Evil, he did Soldier, yeah. And he's, so he was really respectful, and a lot of it was bringing it, just tuning it for production. We had,
You were on set.
I was on set for like maybe the first 2 weeks.
What was that like, knowing that your story was being created and you weren't there?
Oh, I was cool with it.
Yeah.
Because you get to a point, especially like if this was an independent film drama, right? I'd want to be there because of all the things that, line tweakings and this and that. But so much of Event Horizon was technical, and there was a lot of the quote unquote acting stuff.
Yeah.
Was more of those big scenes were front loaded.
I think
Because you get to the point where you're getting into action, and it's like you really want the writer doesn't need to be around because it's shots of...
What do you think of how they cast everything?
Stunned. It was so good. It's perfectly cast. A perfectly cast film. And, yeah. Much...
I'm thinking back. I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody that, like, in it that I was like, maybe didn't fit, but it was...
No.
It was a very congealed... I mean, Sam Neill's fucking out of this world. The fact that you got Sam Neill to be in one of your movies, I want to punch you in the face.
Well, Sam Neill is, he's a funny guy. But he's also, he likes, he's had, I think, great success. First of all, I think he likes the genre.
He does.
In the Mouth of Madness.
I was just gonna say, he took the words out of my mouth. Like, that is incredible, and it's him. Like, the entire movie, he carries the entire movie.
Yeah, and he was launched onto the international stage by Omen 3, right? So
yeah,
so it's not so, he's just obviously he's a really good actor, but he's also someone who doesn't shy away from science fiction. He doesn't shy away from
genre.
From genre. No, it's like, does he find the role interesting, and then he does it.
I have a interesting thing I've been thinking about the last few weeks, and I'd be curious to get your take on it. Screenplays as a written art form. We have books, short stories, poems, soliloquies, fucking whatever, right? But like a published screenplay in screenplay format, why isn't that available? Like, why can't I go to the bookstore and go to the screenplay section and buy any screenplay I want to read?
You used to be able to do that. I mean, I'm wondering if, to a certain extent, if the fact that you can just pull the PDF off the internet has killed it. But I've got, there's a.
But even before the movies, like I told you, I wrote 6 screenplays last year. Like like, what if I just publish those?
Seriously, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I'm looking at. I was just looking at some of my.
Right? How many screenplays have you written that are like, I could brush it up and like, I know it's good because I know I'm a good
like
writer.
it, but it's also things like, you might like the story, and it's just like things like unpublished, unproduced screenplays.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the frustrating thing about it is it's kind of like the reason why. I mean, unless you win a Pulitzer or something, you're not gonna be famous being a playwright in the same way. Is that when you read a play on the page, even Shakespeare, whatever, it's not the finished product. The finished product is a performance. And the same thing with the film. It's like when you're reading the screenplay.
That's why I think it's okay to put both out.
Oh yeah.
There's a director's cut. It would be like the opposite version of that. Like this is actual
Absolutely.
the original screenwriter's vision.
And there have been some great published screenplays. The screenplay to JFK.
It's out of control.
Well, the published version is annotated with a bibliography. So this is where we're getting this idea. This is where we're getting this idea. This is where we're getting this idea. I still think it's crackpot, but it's some of the best sourced crackpot you've ever read. I mean, I love JFK. I think it's easily Stone's best.
How much have you studied the art of screenwriting? For example,
you mean studied as opposed to reading screenplays and watching movies?
Yes. Yeah. Like for example, like Aristotle's Poetics.
Nah, I never read it.
Okay. Have you read?
I went to Stanford, not Brown. Are you kidding me? What?
So, like, you haven't done much. Have you looked at or
I read Sid Field's book, Screenplay, in 1986,
and that was it. And you're like, got it.
Pretty much. And I've seen a ton of movies.
But like, have you written any novels, like books?
Working on
long form stuff.
Working on it.
Yeah,
working on it. I don't want to try.
What's your process? What's your process? Because my process is super weird, right? It's like, okay, I get an idea, I noodle it around, I ask Abby, do you think this is a good idea? And she'll always give me the yeah, and that's all I need, and then I'm like, go. Right,
that's
and
good.
So I'm very post-it note. I'm very right because I love the restrictions. So I get super structured, and I'm like, I don't know. I just have I keep looking up because I put things on walls.
Well, I know. I was looking around to see if there was a post-it note, but there wasn't.
No, but do you see the front of that door?
Yeah,
That's
your door.
I did that yesterday.
Okay.
Like that's how I.
All right.
That's
all right.
So I'm very like structured in that. I'm like, it's gonna be a 7-act play or play.
Right.
5-act structure, whatever. I start from, the super macro of like 5 acts. Okay, act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then character. You know what I mean? Like I break it down like that. So I'd be really curious to hear how your process is. Somebody says go, yes, that's a good idea. Go write it, even if getting paid or not getting paid.
Right.
The creative goes go.
Well, I always think that first of all, I've got to, it's that idea that you have a bunch of ideas warring in your head for dominance. So it's. And when I'm not working on something specifically, then it's a thing of which one of these picks up traction. So I'll work on one. But I have a pretty organic process in the sense that I might write down a note of a scene I want to see, and then I'll write a scene. And by a scene, I'm just talking about like 3, 4, 5 pages. So there's this idea for a character, and it's like, oh, they need to be doing, it's that thing of beginning to give them definition. And then I might use some mind mapping software to map out an idea of a plot, like just to get the ideas down. That's the computer version of doing post-it notes. It's like I don't have to be linear in my thoughts. I can like slap an idea down here, slap an idea down there, and if there's a connection between them, I can draw the connection and make a note on what the connection is. So it's pretty free form. And then I will get to the point where one hits critical mass, and when that then just blows out all the other ideas, and it's like going to focus on this. And at that point, I will outline, but I will not do a detailed outline. My outlines are never more than 10 pages long.
Wow.
And sometimes as short as 5. Because what I really want...
is like the outline your version of like a treatment?
Kind of. But the difference between a treatment and an outline for me is an outline is not for anyone else to see, which means it'll be sentence fragments.
Gotcha.
It's the difference between bullet points and then something that's written in prose.
If the studio said, great idea, go write it. We want a treatment. How many, in 2 months, whatever. how long?
A treatment in 2
like
months? That would be...
Or whatever the time frame. You know,
They
but
want
like
the script in 2 months. They don't want a treatment in 2 months.
So they don't even want to see a treatment first. They want the script. So the outline, the treatment is just for you?
Yeah.
That's so backwards.
No.
That used to not be the case. You do know that. Like in the 40s and 50s, the studio wanted to see a 50-page treatment before they gave the green light to go ahead and write the screenplay.
Yeah, which is nuts to me. Which is, you know.
I see. I don't think it's nuts.
No, but they were also paying you to write the treatment.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Now.
I don't care about money, so I'll do a 50-page treatment on my own.
No, because to me the difference is if I'm going to do, because what I find I end up doing is, you know, I do this very short outline, and then I start bouncing back and forth between writing scenes.
Gotcha.
And expanding the outline.
Gotcha.
Because obviously if I've got only 5 pages or 10 pages of notes, that's basically 100 pages of holes. But what will happen is if I wrote the 50-page treatment and now it was time for me to write the screenplay, and this is not a good thing, this is just me owning my shit, I am lazy. I've figured everything out in writing those 50 pages. Now I'm going to expand it into 120, and I'm just like, oh fuck. This isn't writing anymore. Now this is typing. So what I'm trying to do is
by the way, 100% agree. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So
yes.
So the whole thing for me is to preserve that thing
gotcha.
of I know what I have to write. And I figured out where things need to go, but the pleasure of discovery remains in filling the white space.
I enjoy torturing myself, so I literally will write as much as I can before I have to before I have to open up Final Draft and type in the words "fade in."
Now that I know that about you, remind me if I'm ever over to your house, never to let me look in your bedroom closet. I'm like. I'll just be coming back out and Abby and you'll look at me, it's like there are some things you just weren't meant to know.
Yeah, just some things you weren't meant to know. Do you write morning, afternoon, evening, night?
My favorite. Stay up till 4 in the morning. My favorite schedule, and again, it's like being. Oh, when I used to before being married and having a life and all that. I actually kept it was the rock star schedule, which is I'd put off writing as long as I could. I'd start at 10 at night, and at 10 at night I'd have a cup of coffee, and you can't buy them anymore, but they used to call them trucker speed. They're mini thins.
When I used to wash cars at a car dealership, we'd fucking pop mini thins, and I would like bang out like 12 cars in an hour, like fully detailed.
So that was the thing. I was writing from 10 at night till about 3 or 4 in the morning, and you would just sort of write until unconsciousness. But a lot of what it was that whole, which I think happens to a lot of people. I'm not that way anymore, but a lot of times you'll be so hypercritical when you're more alert. And what was happening at 10 o'clock, I was tired enough to stop censoring myself and attack the white. It's because I'm really good at editing during the day, but as far as filling the white space, I was like, nah, being basically a wuss. And I think that it's like being older. It's just there's none of that anymore. It's like
you get up and.
Well, I don't get up and work. I find that it's like I'm going to be, no matter what I do, it's going to suck before 10, but from 10 o'clock. Till 2 or till from 10 to 2, I can just it's like those are my golden 4 hours, like and by far as it's like, oh gee, you only work 4 hours a day. It's like, no, I'm doing a lot more than that. But
you're constantly working.
But like, those are the.
Correct me for anybody who's not a fucking writer or maybe not a creative brain.
Right.
Can I just get verification right now that like. If you sit at your computer and write for 3 to 4 hours, which, by the way, is a fucking massive long time.
Right.
when you're not at your computer, when you're going to fucking get dinner, when you're trying to play with your kids, when you're always thinking, you're always writing.
Yeah.
Always writing.
Yeah, I in retrospect, I actually haven't had a vacation since 1988, maybe.
Right, sure,
like,
yeah.
It's just like when the story started and I actually started writing.
I check so like I check out like there'll be like certain like
By the way, I'm not complaining. It's like you so want this life, right? You really do.
I mean, you're doing what you love every single day. It's the greatest. And by the way, every single fucking person on the planet can do it. Not true. Right, but like figure out what gives you that feeling of like I will do that every single day for the rest of my life, and figure out a way to monetize that or whatever, or provide, and then do that.
Yeah, and now
end of story.
Right, and now that there's the internet, it's like even if someone's sitting there going like, well, gee, the only thing I like to do is jerk off, and I'm like, I hate to say it.
I hate to say it. Have you heard of this Parthenon or something?
Yeah, I was about to say. I bet you can find someone who's like going like, hey, just put up a camera, and it's like,
people are making millions of dollars by having other people watch them play video games on the internet.
Yep. Oh, I know. My that's what it's like. I when people.
Which, by the way, I encourage. Like, I'll go for it.
Oh my God!
Whatever.
I have no problem with that. It's like when people complain about the Marvel movies. I'm like, my son is actually excited to go see a movie, as opposed to just watching someone else play Rainbow Six Siege. It's like, which makes less. Like, I get you wanting to play the violent video game. I like playing the violent video game, and we're not gearing up to go commit violence. We're totally satisfied having fake violence and playing violent video games. What drives me crazy is that when he's not playing the violent video game, he's watching video of someone else do it. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What?
Get some escapism, kid.
Can you?
Do you know what Cannon's favorite movie of all time is?
What, Cannon? No.
My son.
Oh, no.
Pacific Rim.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's perfect for a 4-year-old. I mean, that's
I'm
not a slam on the film. It's like, yeah.
No, the film's out of this world. Incredible. I fucking so love it. We played on the trampoline the other day, and for 20 minutes, he was like, you're the monster, I'm the big robot. And because I've seen the movie 1,000 times.
You know the moves.
I know the move. I know, everything.
Did he hit you with the boat?
Dude, he goes, elbow rocket. And then he does like the double smash, like, I mean, his favorite part is when I get him and I turn into the wing creature and fly up into space, and then he pulls out his fake sword and cuts, and we like come down and do that whole thing. He loves it.
I just
weird tangent there.
Still love, it's that movie has got some of these fantastic moments, and
do you understand that it's 18 minutes before the titles appear? You have 18 minutes of executed story before the fucking title card appears.
Yeah,
no, it's ridiculous.
It's I just love that whole thing's like, first, don't you ever touch me again. Second. Don't you ever touch me again.
And now, and the funny thing is like I haven't read the screenplay or looked at it, but like
it's a fantastic screenplay.
The curious thing is that reading that screenplay, it's like, character and then you have that line dialogue first, don't ever touch me again, and then he changes his look, and then you have the exact same dialogue, the exact same words, yet that it doesn't. He's not just,
And that's one of the things that people go like, show don't tell. It's like, no, sometimes you write.
Sometimes you fucking punch them in the face.
You're right. It's like sometimes you've got to write performance.
How are you on dialogue?
I love it. I think I'm great. I think I'm fucking great. I'm not Aaron Sorkin. Thanks for that. I mean, but that's like when it comes when it comes to dialogue, seriously, when it comes to dialogue, there's Sorkin and maybe Mamet, and those are the Mozarts, and everybody else is Salieri.
I adopt more there. That's why I do so much outlining. That's why I put off writing the actual screenplay I'll write the fucking screenplay without the dialogue, like knowing that there needs to be a line of dialogue here, but not putting it in because
you want to write a silent movie.
100%. And then my dialogue is, okay, we're not happy with each other, and the audience knows that. And I come walking into the office, and I come in and I sit down, and we're looking at each other, and I sit down and I say, "How was your day yesterday?"
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like that. That's how I operate with dialogue. Like build the tension, and then the dialogue means nothing.
And that is exactly, that is absolutely, I think, how you do it. I mean, I think that's tremendous. That's not my method, but the reason is I'm using the dialogue to discover who the characters are.
Yeah.
As I write.
You also write cooler than I do, I think.
Well,
I'm just thinking, and you haven't read every one of my screenplays, but I'm in a like a weird, like, I don't know, space. Your stuff's cool. Like okay, if we were video games, you would be Contra and I would be fucking Zelda. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta really put a lot of time and thought into, like, what I'm doing, whereas you can fucking start playing Contra and immediately be like, yeah, this is awesome! You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
not to insult your writing.
No, but it's also a thing of like, there's certain characters that you know, if you're writing a lot of action, and this is, some of these things you get into is, everyone, you know, and this goes into like story analysis, you know, everyone always wants to know why. Why is the killer bad? Why is this that? And it's like, and sometimes you get into the things of like, when I always think of like the most fascinating villains, right? And it's like, you know, why is Anton Chigurh? Who cares? I don't want to know Anton Chigurh's backstory.
Right.
He's a pure fucking sociopath who's imposing his will upon a chaotic universe.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just you. The coin don't have no say. It's like, I got here the same way the coin did. It's got that thing of like, it's the inhumanness that makes it fascinating.
I know the answer already, because unless your method has changed over the last couple of years. But do you listen to music while you write?
Oh yeah.
Do you? Well, because I know you, like, you'll put on Dark Knight in the background, like, as you're
Dark Knight
writing. So do you always like what like, tell me,
like, it's a bunch of stuff.
Explain your space when those 3 to 4 hours. What's your environment like around you? What do you have?
Seriously?
I mean, obviously you're left with, your wife or kids aren't bugging you.
I hate to sound like such a
pretentious screenwriter.
No, like I am. No, I'm definitely pretentious, and I'm a screenwriter. So, no, I hate to sound like a cliche. I actually really love going to the library, and I really love going to coffee shops, and it's because I have attention deficit that if you put me in a room where I'm by myself, I will seek out distractions. But if you put me where there's people walking by or there's constant little distractions, I can look up and go back. Look up and go back. But if I'm alone, I will push myself away from the work. So what I like to do is I've got a huge playlist, and there's two things. It's like when I'm trying to I will build a story specific playlist. And I will be listening.
Do you know I do the exact same fucking thing?
Yeah, it's like you built your ideal soundtrack, right?
And it's like random songs will come in, and they may have to do with like the time. Like I wrote one story like set in 1993. So guess what? I didn't listen to any fucking music before or after 1993.
Wow. Okay.
And just like really only listen to that, and then like a song would pop, and I'd be like, I don't know, it clicks, like add that to the playlist, add that. And then what I do, because I run a lot, you know, and it's very like, I mean, I go up to the top of the mountain, very like, you know, meditation and visualization.
Oh, for a second I thought you go up to the top and you jump around going, Drago!
I mean, sometimes, yeah. But like, if I'm like if I'm trying to figure out something in the story, you know, I call it plug in to plug out, and I'll plug in my headphones and play the playlist that I'm building for that story, put it in, go on my run, and through like physical, like, because my body's doing something that like I can't stop, then it allows my mind to like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's also it's fantastic when you are stuck on a story problem, or actually it's any problem that requires creative thought. It's conceptual blockbusting. It's like when I'm really working on a story, and I do this especially if I'm in the library and I get to a point. It's like, get up, go outside in the little courtyard. Why? Because now I'm walking. I'm like pacing.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's, you start looking like, if people sit there and go like, are you on the spectrum? I'm like, shut up. Because suddenly you get into a perseverating behavior. If I'm at the coffee shop and I'm not going to get up and or my wife's actually, when I'm working at home, she's actually spotted me. She's like, oh, you're doing it. It's like, what? It's like, well, you're sticking your lower jaw and you're rocking back and forth, so it must be a really good idea. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, Abby's like, can you stop talking to yourself in your office while you're pacing around?
Yeah.
I knew this was gonna go over, but
structure. We got to hit structure really quick.
Hit structure.
So I want to hit, because you talked about.
Also start to think, because I always do a movie recommendation at the end, and I already got mine. Surprise, what it's gonna be. So put that in your head of what we go or to think of. But then let's hit structure right now.
Yeah. So one of the things that people always talk about, the 3-act structure. I know you're not a fan of the 3-act structure. I always think that the 3-act structure, another way of thinking about it where it doesn't change so much, is just beginning, middle, and end. And that's all it is. So when people sit there and go like, well, you need 30 minutes for the first act, it's like, well, usually because the first act is setting everything up. So it's hard to do it, even if you're doing a short film. Like if you think of like most like Pixar films, which tend to be like perfectly structured because of just because of the nature of not only that company but of the way you make animation, right?
Yeah, yep.
Right. So there's a give and take in that writing process, but it's still, even with a film that's only 90 minutes long, it's still hard to get a first act that's a lot shorter than 30, maybe 25.
Well, first of all, I have a saying. Hold on, I have a saying. There is no such thing as a bad story. There are only bad storytellers.
I'd go with that. It's like the story is the story, and I think one of the problems is...
And every great story has beginning, middle, and end.
Right. Right.
Set up, punchline, whatever.
Right,
whether
exactly.
it's a joke, whether it's whatever. And so...
Right.
Yeah.
And you can shift with those. A great example of that is, The Aristocrats. The Aristocrats is, what's the first act? It's one sentence. A guy walks into a talent agency. And then the second act, if you wanted to think of it as 3 acts, is like the first act is a sentence, and then the second act is as long as you can make it.
Yeah.
And then the third act is, the line. It's like, but I always loved, one of the reasons I love The Prestige is when they broke down the magic trick in the same way, right? It's like, you have the pledge, you have the turn.
Yeah.
And then the prestige, which is and it's like, because when you think of it, and you go to see a magic show, we're all expecting to see something we didn't expect. That's the turn. It's the prestige that makes you go, oh.
So do you not worry about your structure, so to say, as much like as you're crafting the story?
No, I'm not.
Because I start from there. Like that's the very first thing I'll decide.
So this
is
is
5 acts. It's 7 acts. It's 3 acts.
What I'll end up doing is right now I use a 4-act structure for damn near everything. And the reason I use a 4-act structure is because the second act is such a frickin' bear that it's easier just to divide it into 2 and say, oh, here's the midpoint of the story. And now I've got 4, and it just makes second acts easier. So it goes like, what's the difference between your 4-act structure?
I've recently been thinking about I got an idea, and I was like, I think it could be a 4-act structure because it's for the same reason, right? You got your intro, right, and then you get into the meat. If you can pinnacle, you know what I mean, really rip the page at that midpoint.
Yeah.
Well, then you just got, and it's like going down back down the mountain.
Right.
Yeah.
So the important thing, though, I always think about why. For example, let's say you're doing something with 7 acts or 5 acts. That's fine. But what's really important, and it's something to cheat. I think that would be the specifics words. You should cheat anyway, and make sure that around page 30 of your script, there's a moment where a reader looking for the 3-act structure will go, aha, here's the end of the first act.
Yeah.
And around page 90, if it's 120 pages, around page 90 is like, and here's the low point, which is the end of the second act.
Right.
It's like whatever structure you need to use to structure your story, it's like there are no rules. This isn't physics. Physics.
I actually, do you know? I mean, part of the reason for that. Do you know that I actually believe? I can break down storytelling into a like ones and zeros, like a binary way. Where like if you like, you know, like basically like once I figure out the formula, I can then apply that to any story, because everyone has a story.
Right.
Everyone has multiple stories, but they're not always well told. That's why we don't pay attention to them.
Or they're not well told. And the other thing is, when you talk about someone's life as a story, it's like no one wants to get to the end of the third act, because it's like that's.
But it could be like a specific moment, you know.
Right.
Whatever. Is that crazy? Is that ludicrous to think that I truly believe I can literally break down story, which is so meta, and you know what I mean? I literally think I can break down like the DNA, the ones and zeros, a binary thing that can somehow. Does that make sense?
Well, the reason I don't, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, and it's hard for a lot of people to accept or to face, but it's like. It makes sense. It's just a question of at what point we do it. Are you going to be the one to do it? No, but are you going to be the one to do it? I don't know. Is it going to happen in 100 years? I don't know. But it drives me crazy when people talk about, it's like, well, I just don't think machines will ever be sentient. And it's like, why not? It's like, well, they're not made out of living tissue. And I'm like, well, neither are you. I mean, we're not. A carbon atom is not alive. Hydrogen is not alive. These things aren't alive. You cram enough of this together, and we're walking around day trading and driving trucks. So.
Have you watched One Strange Rock, Aronofsky's show on Nat Geo?
No.
You should look at it. It's on demand if you have DirecTV. I don't know what you have, or YouTube it, whatever. They go to some really they break down just fascinating stuff of like you know mitochondria.
Right.
That's a really fucking crazy thing.
Like why do we have them?
And
how did they get there?
And experts theorize that theorize to trace it back to one event, like one single-celled organism consuming another single-celled organism, and thus produced. And then they needed oxygen to survive that new organism, thus produced mitochondria. Like 4-5 billion years ago. That shit blows my mind.
Well, it's like when people talk about winning the lottery, and it's like everyone that exists won the lottery. It's like again, I always think of it, it's like the application. Well, we could talk about the weak anthropic principle all day long, but the point is, getting back to structure, yeah, I do think you can encode it. I mean, the difficulty then becomes, I always think it's a thing of scale. For example, it's the same sense that right now you can write a chatbot that can defeat the Turing test, that can pass the Turing test. Mm-hmm. But it was also pointed out that this is a Turing test. It's like you're not interacting with a robot, you're interacting with a text bot through the medium of text. So, and it's actually one of the reasons why, you know, our social norms right now are so disrupted, is because when you interact one-on-one with someone, what do they say? 80% of our communication is nonverbal.
Sure.
All of the context and what you're doing is so you're saying
context is huge.
Right. And
the example we said from Pacific Rim, that 2-line.
Yeah. Like
one person might read that and like, why is this a typo?
Right. He's saying it. Why is he saying it twice? Why? Because he's marshaled 2 times.
Yeah.
Says it 2 times.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna go get the paper. Get the papers.
Yeah. It's like, come on. Sorry. All I could think was like, you know, we better check for a pulse. No pulse. So
and Canon does that too, by the way. It's like I'll have to go down and he'll and then he'll stop and turn around and like and I'll
you know on the so you know when my son was 4, you know what my version of that film was?
No.
The first Transformers movie. First Transformers movie.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah.
That's so well done.
Yeah, and
to circle back to Michael Bay, one of the greatest directors of all time.
I love the first Transformers.
The first, it has like a, and he even says it. It has a magic.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's like no.
We're going way over, and that's a topic of like a completely other show. But I want to get your that's real. Like, tell the 8 people now that are watching or listening. Like,
are you sure it's not less than 6 now? We could be down to 4.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Okay, 3. We'll say 3.
Yeah. There
is a magic that happens sometimes, and I would say 97% of movies don't have it.
Right.
But there is that, and Transformers 1 is a perfect example. There's lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
It's just magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that is the thing which you're not able to. That's the thing that you.
But everybody thinks they can make that.
Well, I think is you do everything you do everything to the best of your ability, and then there's that extra thing of having to get lucky. You know,
yeah.
it's that.
But it's an intangible thing.
Right.
Like, you could literally execute perfectly.
Right.
Everything, and it just doesn't. Grab the fucking audience. It doesn't touch people in the way that you thought it would.
Well, here's a great example, and it always depends on. I always think it depends on scale. So, and I haven't seen the film yet, and the friends of mine who have seen the film love it, but Disney is disappointed by the response to Solo.
Yeah,
which
did a lot less. I didn't expect it to do that.
Right,
I expected to do a lot more in box office.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem because I didn't see it yet. It's like the fact that it didn't make as much money is not going to keep me from seeing it at the box office. This was Deadpool 2 weekend, and so this coming weekend will be Solo weekend. But what got me was not so much the disappointment that it only did 83 here, right? But 83 million, which hopefully should amount to, though not for Star Wars, that's still probably going to be over $200 million for the domestic run.
Eventually, yeah. It only did 68 international.
But the scary thing is it only did 10 million in China, and that should have been a much better market. And so now they're basically doing a postmortem, how do we prevent that from happening again? And that's an example of the filmmakers may have done everything right, and it's not going to be. When you look at the film, when I see the film, this is, and by the way, the same thing goes for the Avengers films, for the big Marvel films, for these Star Wars films. It's like you're going over these things frame by frame. Can this frame be better? Can that frame be better? At every single moment, you've got a massive amount of people, very smart, good people who love the films and the filmmaking, trying to go, is this the best version of this we can do?
It sucks the life out of anything because it starts as an idea, you know what I mean? Like Solo or any movie,
right?
Every single one of them has begun from a idea in a brain.
Right.
And then executed by thousands of people.
But the thing is, it's but even with that huge machine, you have things even with that, you have something like Ragnarok, right? Which Ragnarok is a film on that scale, very expensive, that has exactly what you're talking about, right? Which is you see Ragnarok and it was getting all these rave reviews, and then you finally see it and you're like,
yeah, I see.
Wow,
yeah,
this actually, it delivers. It's so light.
Speaking of Star Wars, Rian Johnson's the last Star Wars movie, what are we on, 8, right?
Who's counting?
Right, whatever, but
I'll see him. I'll still see him.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but I was
yeah,
fuck. This guy understands story and structure. The writing is so fucking great and well done. It's just so tight and so well done over a very epic, long, journey and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, it's fucking sad that talent is being wasted on a fucking Star Wars movie. You have original ideas in your head, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but seriously, I mean, I grew up with Star. It's I'm older than those guys are. But man, if someone said there's you want to do your Star Wars film, I'd be like, yeah. It's
well, fuck yeah, of course, we all would.
Yeah. And I think it's it's like
But
if you're Rian Johnson, you actually got to do it, which is like whoa.
And now you're doing 3 more. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up.
All right.
We went over movie recommendations.
Did we actually talk about anything specific?
I don't give a fuck. It was so great.
I know.
It was on fire.
We're just awesome. It's just like if you want to know what it'd be like to hang out with us, it's like
should we just have our own pod? We should just sit here and just talk for 6 hours a day.
Or either that, or we could do the incoherent one where we're drinking.
Well, yeah.
God, that's a hard
movie
one.
movie recommendation. I'm gonna go first. I'll give you.
Go.
I'll give you time. Okay. Guess what my movie recommendation is? And should be
Halloween.
around writing.
Oh, writing. Okay.
Okay.
Go.
So try to keep it within the topic of what we were talking about. Mine. I'm gonna do Event Horizon, of course.
Oh.
And so for those of you, they're some youngsters, and I mean that movie came out
97.
Yeah. So
21 years
ago.
now.
So I mean, there's a kid in there editing who wasn't alive when this movie came out.
21 years. This movie can now drink.
Yes, this movie can now drink. So let me
pour that movie a shot.
I talked about my experience of seeing it, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not gonna keep throwing more glamour and praise towards you, but I will break it down from a story perspective of. So there was a very difficult thing that needed to be accomplished in this, in that you had to construct a well-written story with characters where emotions and and the whole her backstory that you see for 2 seconds is great, is brilliant. It's it's great. Anyway, but you had to do all of that and apply it into a very analytical, binary science.
Right.
Ground it in reality. Not reality, but whatever. But really, yeah. And so, if anybody hasn't seen it, go and watch it. You can borrow my copy if you like. Which, by the way, Phil signed.
Oh, hey.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did.
I brought it in second day of class, and I was like, "This sounds really cheesy," but what you signed my copy. Anyway, but if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Just like every movie I recommend, I'm not going to recommend ever a bad movie. But especially if you're a person who studies cinema, the mid '90s were a very strange time. And there's some, you can see benchmarks of, it's almost like a perfect blend of where movies, came from, studio, right?
Right.
Where movies came from, and then where they kind of went.
Right.
Because very CG, very visual effects heavy, but very primitive on its technology.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of CG. That we could use.
Yeah, there's the floating stuff, what I mean,
and that was a big deal.
That's exactly my point. So if you first of all, it's a fucking very entertaining, it's scary too. It gets scary at the end. I'm telling you, it gets scary at the end. Your wife watched it for the first time recently, right?
No. Oh no. She read the she saw it when it first came
out.
Okay.
She did. I thought you posted something on Facebook where you were sitting her down for the first time.
Oh no. I think I reposted because a friend of mine was having his and actually she's a friend of mine. It's she hadn't seen it, and and I was like, why are you doing this to her? She doesn't like horror movies. She's not a cup of tea, and you should not. You were so sleeping on the couch.
Did it one more thing, then we'll get to your movie recommendation. But where were you personally when you sat down to how many years before it came out did you write it?
I actually wrote it in. I wrote it in 92, 93.
Okay, where were you at, personally? Were you married yet?
I was going out with the woman that I would marry, and my father had died. I don't actually recommend writing a horror film when you're in the middle of existential grief, but apparently it works.
Yeah, it came across. Okay. Your movie recommendation.
So this is going to be a little bit odd because I'm not going to reach back very far. First of all, I'm assuming anyone who's watching this podcast has already seen it, unless you're waiting for the VOD. But Get Out. Not Get Out. You've already seen Get Out. Get Out, by the way, wonderful movie. Anyway, The Quiet Place. See, I was thinking of The Sunken Place.
Have you read the screenplay for that?
And that's why. That is
60
why.
60 fucking pages,
that's
dude.
Why,
with pictures
right,
and fucking.
Right. See The Quiet Place and then read the script. Because the amazing thing about that script, seriously, is when I read the script, and it's different enough from the film, right? That you can see, it's like, okay, so this is why the director, and the actor.
I don't know why, and I love John Krasinski.
Right.
I don't know why he got a credit as co-writer as well.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the thing is, it has to be. That's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of a stretch.
It's a bit of a stretch.
But I mean, I've done a ton of arbitrations, and so I didn't have the shooting script in front of me to compare.
Yeah.
I think that there's a possibility that you could make the argument that he contributed, 51% of the final product. Their names would never come off that.
By the way, real quick, explain what that is. Like
so the reason I mentioned that script is it's one of the few times I've read a script, had such a perfect idea of the concept of the film and the fundamental characters, and it was so well sold. That script is that a script a reflection of the movie? It's 50. It is. It's 50% of what the movie they would make, but it's one of the few times I've read a script and saying, if I was an executive, I would have read the script in an hour and a half max, and for the next 3 hours, I'd be jumping up and down on my boss's desk, yelling at them to buy the script.
60 pages with pictures.
Yeah.
And 0 lines of dialogue.
There's a few, but they're like they're thrown in.
Yeah.
It's
like incredible.
It's the way the writers formatted the script. They on every page they break at least one rule of how you're supposed to tell screenplays.
And I think I loved it.
And of what, 68 pages?
Yeah, something like that.
Of 68 rule breaks, maybe 3 don't work. And the big ones all work. They're like little things where you're saying,
there's an entire page that's a Monopoly board.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna end there.
Yeah. Let's end there.
This was awesome. I knew it was gonna be great. I was super pumped.
Incoherent though. It was incoherent, but we're incoherent, so that's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Thank you so much for doing this, Phil.
It's a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure, great honor. That's it. We went over, but I think it was worth it. I think we both brought fire here.
How late are we?
We're 20 minutes over.
Well, yeah, but how late? What time is it?
Oh, like 1:30.
Oh,
are you okay?
I'm cool.
Yeah. So that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Phil, for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
In the meantime, go out and write your movie. RynoRyder out.